Hello, I'm Josephine and I'd like to welcome you to the Awakening TV channel. Today it's my pleasure to introduce a colleague, Claire Wiles, down at her Light and Energy Centre in Weymouth. Claire runs the centre and she also runs her own TV channel as well, called the Light and Energy TV channel. But Claire is a nutritionalist and I'm very interested to hear what she's got to say in that area, and later on she's going to be demonstrating for us. So welcome, Claire. It's nice to come down and see you in your own place.
Thank you, Jo. Lovely to see you.
And we're going to talk about nutrition, but before we go deeply into nutrition, how did you come to be doing it and how did you come to be here in your centre?
Okay. Well, my journey goes back really to when I was a little girl. I grew up in Dorchester, near to the Hill Fort at Poundbury. My father was very interested in things like archaeology. He used to read Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. I don't know if you remember that. And I can remember as a little girl thumbing through these magazines and thinking, oh, you know, somebody's spontaneously human combusted and oh, look at this on reincarnation and aliens. So I grew up in an environment very interested in alternative things and knowing that actually the world was probably quite different than what we're indoctrinated to believe. I spent a lot of time walking my dog over at Poundbury, really interested in sort of the flowers and the plants and that sort of thing. And I used to feel energies of places, although at the time I thought it was just my vivid imagination because that's what I was told. And I suppose as you get into your teenage years, you kind of put that side of you a little bit out of the way. So I still had this interest, but wasn't following it in the same way. And as I kind of got, I suppose, late teens, early 20s, I started to read more and more on nutrition and herbal medicine and that sort of thing. And I was diagnosed with something called unexplained infertility in my 20s. And I'd read a book, a Leslie Kenton book actually, on raw foods. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'll see what it's like to eat raw foods. Yeah. So I did a 75% raw food diet for a while. I was vegetarian anyway, but I went completely vegan. And lo and behold, I actually managed to conceive 2 children. So I thought, well, this is amazing. This is really powerful because you can really change how you feel. You can change your life by what you eat. Yeah. So that then made me go on to study naturopathic nutrition, treating the person as a whole rather than a prescriptive diet for each person with a particular illness. So that's what kind of got me into the nutrition side, but also using other healing remedies as well, because of course nutrition is one part of the picture. Any kind of healing people has to be a multifaceted approach. So I do lots of other things as well.
So your young life obviously was in quite a good natural environment.
Yes.
And you were nurtured in alternatives.
I suppose, yes.
So
although my mother wasn't so interested, and you know, my father, although he was interested in those sorts of things, he was actually a fireman, so he had that sort of side to him, but also this interest in things that weren't quite a good
balance, really.
Exactly.
Feet down in the world,
that's
but quite nurtured. So the spark of knowing outside the box was nurtured. Well, that's really nice, isn't it? It's not the case for a lot of people, is it?
No, and I think, you know, I mean, I was born in 65, so in the early 70s, or particularly perhaps when I went on to the grammar school, you know, as a girl then, to be interested in alternative things and CND and that sort of thing was really, you know, you didn't have that many people on your side. So it's interesting times. It's so nice now that people are awakening more and they're much more interested in this bigger picture. There's been such a shift over the years.
I want to talk a bit more now into nutrition and this holistic approach and all the other things you do, because I know you work with healing and dowsing and crystals you work with, don't you?
No, I don't work with crystals I do use crystals, but I'm not a crystal therapist.
No, okay.
I use sound within my healing treatments as well.
So should we talk a little bit about your healing treatments before we go deeper into nutrition?
Yes,
so, what sort of healing are you working in? What sort of style of healing? What was your background in healing?
Well, I use emotional freedom technique, EFT,
yes,
so
brilliant.
tapping on acupressure points, because oftentimes everything that happens to us in our life actually leaves a mark on the body, and that gets locked in. A friend of mine once said that it's a bit like you're born into this white room with nothing on the walls at all, and everything that's said, everything is done, is written on those walls, and we take it in, and that has a huge impact on people's bodies.
Yes.
And EFT is a hugely powerful tool
Yes.
for clearing these things out of the energy fields. I mean, certainly, for example, I might be working with somebody using EFT with what they perceive to be the problem, but it's a bit like an onion. You know, you've got this outer layer, and the more you start to tap away whatever is happening on the outside, you're really getting into the underlying problem. And someone might say, oh my goodness, you know, this has come into my head, but I didn't realise what an issue it was. So EFT is hugely powerful.
Yes.
I also use a type of Indian head massage that I've actually incorporated into a full treatment, if you like, using dowsing to check on the energy fields and the chakras, and I use singing bowl and shamanic drumming and hemi-sync music in order to balance the chakras that way. Oh, do I do anything else? Oh, Reiki obviously is incorporated into that, and also the Moonai Key, the 9 shamanic rites of initiation. I found those were a very powerful tool to actually increase the energy that I could channel through to help with people's healing.
Do you want to elaborate a bit on that?
Well, the 9 shamanic rites of initiation, there was 2 that were particularly key to me, the Earth Keeper's rite and also the Healer's rite. And I found that when I actually underwent those initiations, there was a massive change. So although, you know, I'm obviously Reiki attuned 1 and 2, I found more of a shift for me with the Moonai Key.
So these are ancient practices,
absolutely.
aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we remembering? What we once could do?
Do you know, I think that's a really interesting point, because I can remember when I studied naturopathy, it was like, oh, I know this. Somebody's actually reminding me. This isn't learning it new. This is something that I've always known, that is part of me, because it made such sense.
Yeah, so maybe
Absolute
this
sense.
awakening is an awakening of
Yeah.
our remembrance, really.
Well, we've all chosen to reincarnate at this time.
Yes.
For a reason. I firmly believe that. You know, all of us souls that are doing what we do, we've chosen to do this now. It's a very key time. So it's being able to share that, which is why, you know, channels like yours and mine are so important, to be able to share this information.
And to show
across the
others
world.
that inside them are probably
Yes.
hidden gifts.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there is an access to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
hence then you get the mission, the reason for life, feeling driven to do things.
And also, I think when we're talking about healing and hands, you know, using your hands to heal and those kind of techniques in EFT, those are very key now, because of course within the nutritional and herbal medicine field, we've got this awful
Yes.
Codex Alimentarius, all these things that are happening to control what we can do.
We need to elaborate a bit on that for the listeners. This is restrictions on what we're allowed to do and use.
Absolutely. This came
What
into
we're allowed
force,
to say.
That's right, last April. And it's under the new, the change in the European law. And it means that we are going to be very much controlled. How it works was, we used to be able in this country to use anything that we wanted to, unless it was deemed to be unsafe.
Yes.
Now we can't use things, or we won't be able to use things, unless they are deemed to be safe. Now that is a whole different ballgame, because who is it to say what is safe and what isn't safe? So, for example, milk thistle been used for millennia to help with the liver, and yet there's been some problems actually getting milk thistle.
Yes.
I so firmly believe that it is our body, and we should be able to choose
Absolutely.
which direction that we go
It's
in.
choice, isn't it?
It is.
And hundreds of years ago,
Yeah.
you looked to see which weed was growing outside your
Absolutely.
front door, and
Yeah.
someone in the house would need that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't need people
No.
to tell us what we need to.
Exactly.
And we take
Yeah.
our own risks.
And just to sort of to enlarge, because I think it's important for people to realise how powerful this new legislation is going to be. What's happening is, for supplements to be licensed, they won't be licensed, say like vitamin C will be licensed as vitamin C. Each particular company, their vitamin C will have to be sent to be licensed. So that means that only the nutritional companies that can afford to
Quite.
will be able to have their products licensed. So does that mean that the very pure products, the smaller companies, the very ethical companies, they're not going to be able to afford it?
No.
And I know that with vitamin C, for example, what's going to be coming in is we won't be able to buy the tablets in a larger amount than 250 milligrams per tablet when we need 1,000. You know, so we just have to take more. It's a big concern, and I think this is why it's so important to have lots of ways of healing, and also to share so much information with people.
Yes.
Although it sounds scary, but while we still can.
And we're going to have to go in more energetically.
Absolutely.
As opposed to supplement-wise.
Yeah.
And of course, the energy of these products is out there. And you know, we just filmed the Vibropath, and she's puts the energy into the pillows. So we might have to look for energetic ways, but probably that's the way we've worked in the past.
Absolutely, I quite agree. Yeah.
So
and the use of sound, you know, the use of sound waves to actually help with somebody's body.
Yes.
You know, we know that the sound of a rhythm will affect people on their physical body.
Yes.
A melody will affect somebody's mind, but spiritually you need the harmony.
Yeah.
So all those things together, that mind, body, spirit with the use of sound is very powerful.
And I was watching the Tooth and Throat Singers this year at a big shamanic conference, and when I heard it, I thought, gosh, you will be able to burst tumours with that. And then we went on to conversations about amazing stuff done. So it's all energetic. So let's go back into food.